12 zeros, was moved using stablecoins, which is more money than Visa and MasterCard combined moved in the air. This extraordinary advancements in the tools that are available to innovators, the companies all over the world, using new technologies to create this move forward rapidly. So to have legislation or regulation that doesn't connect with where the world is, to have legislation and regulators who don't understand the range of possibilities for people who are doing things that are well-intended and pragmatic and solve everyday solutions for ordinary citizens and businesses and doing interesting things, and not arming them with the ability to do risk-based analysis and to know that you can't treat the way you treat a multi-billion-dollar multinational organization the same way that you treat something with new ideas and new energies that solve very specific niche problems, that you can't treat them the same way, opens up an opportunity for us, well, a disadvantage for us to be left behind. And so the thinking behind this amendment and the thinking behind a lot of what the things, quite frankly, I'm most excited about the government is doing at the moment is meeting the challenge and the opportunity where we see it. That the world is moving at an incredible rate. And you have two real concerns, quite frankly. How do you protect your citizens? How do you protect your businesses from risk? And do so in a way that allows you to take advantage of the opportunity and not be left behind. And there's a stack of disadvantages of being small, a ton of them, right? Small market, small population size, small resources, small budget, small land mass, a ton of them. But one of the things in my previous role as Chief of Staff that I really love the opportunity to zero in is the strategic advantage of our pen. That despite being small, our pen was the exact same size as a large country. That we had the ability to make decisions of our own steam, of our own merit, of our own thought, that's as powerful as large countries, and we do it over and over again. A beautiful example of that has always been the Bridgetown Initiative. Our initial steam, our initial thought, gathering together giants of the world to one space to anchor something that moved the world forward because of the power of our pen, because of the power of our thought. And I think this is fundamentally something that we have to take much more advantage of going forward. We have an ability to lean on the fact that we have been a space where we call it good regulation, but we like to say no to things. So Barbados is not a space where you see something being put forward and you think someone got bribed or someone got paid off. That's not the reputation that we have, and long may continue. But by the same token, there's an opportunity to convert that good standard in terms of reputation to use it as a competitive advantage. How can we frame good regulation with a level of nimbleness in operations and competitive thought in terms of technologies that's coming at us to move the economy forward and get to the next stage of development? Senator Cummins spoke about quite a deal about our position as a major power globally in captive markets. We rank number 7 in the world, number 3 in the Caribbean. And I'm excited by the potential of growth, but the question I keep asking the persons in this industry, yes, we rank number 7 and global business comes our way, but how many of our developers are creating interesting software platforms that is indigenous to Barbados and then can be scaled to the world for this market? How many of our data analysts coming from the university are creating interesting new models around that? Senator Walters talked about the fishing industry and the boats. How can we make it available for a new format of engagement with regulators for some smart kids out of university or wherever they may be to create a new type of insurance model for fishing industry that connects with what the local industry holds near and dear, understands the different parameters of what makes it unique here, but then scale to the world and create global products and services. The way we do that is having a dynamic regulator who's not here just in the business of saying no, but assessing the opportunities, making judgments on the basis of risk, and allowing innovators to innovate. And the notion of introducing a risk-based assessment is exactly that. Now, I spent some time with the FSC and their officials. They're dynamic. They want to do interesting things, but they'll be the first to admit they don't understand all the range of technologies and things that people come to them with. From crypto-backed insurance to utilization of AI-driven models for health insurance, all range of things that are new to them. They want to have the opportunity not just to say no at the beginning, but to assess the risk, and on the basis of that, introduce new modalities to what Barbados can be. And that's exciting. Now, you do that on the basis of risk. You make an assessment of how many people those are going to affect, What is the benefits as a result of being hosted there, not only to citizens, but your reputation? And how can we then crowd in investment and opportunities for companies to set up shop here and not just benefit directly from the insurance or financial instruments, but also hiring lawyers, hiring accountants, hiring graphic designers, hiring personal fitness trainers, whatever the thing that these persons working in these new companies need to benefit on. How can you leverage regulations as a means for extraordinary competitive advantage and economic growth? That's the business that this is in. So I rise to support the bill, not in the specificity of just what it represents, but the philosophy of using our pen as a distinct advantage as a small country. That we have a clear opportunity to be a global hub for research and development. We have a clear opportunity to be a leader in digital finance. We have a clear opportunity to be a leader in impact innovation. And we have been doing that. Laws and adjustments to how we function, such as this, are fundamental to taking it to the next level and inciting a new path of development for the country. In this short statement, thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator the Honourable Jonathan Reid. Any other speakers? Senator the Honourable Dr. Chantal Mulroney.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As I stand to support this bill, Mr. President, I believe that perhaps the Honourable Senator Walters was not in the chamber when we would have debated the Sustainable Fisheries Management Act. And in that debate, we would have provided an overview of the current state of the fishery sector, the support that is available to the fishery sectors for building resilience in the post-Beryl situation, and also the support that was being made available through government and other agencies, again, to help not only just recovery, but build capacity. And not even only directly within the fishery sector, but also as well in the associations that are part of that entire ecosystem. And Mr. President, I want to make sure that I keep my boat within the required waters and don't go into the deep blue with Senator Walters. But at the same time, if you would permit me, I may just have to refresh the memory for Senator Walters' sake, and for the record too, in relation to the support, because I think when Senator Walters was speaking, he was a little bit fuzzy, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, he wasn't sure, Mr. President. So let me provide the necessary clarity and surety that was provided prior in relation to the support of the fishery sector. And I will bring my boat to shore, Mr. President, and wrap that up in the context of insurance. So I want to remind the chamber that, in fact, that when the government announced its initial support to the fishery sector in light of the devastation of Beryl, we initially announced that we would give support for the first 3 months initially. It was boat owners, $2,000 per month for 3 months. We then extended it to another 3 months, 6 months in total. 6 months in total, Mr. President. So far, at that time, and that was, I think it was just last month or so that we debated that what is now the Act, the government would have spent $5.496 million. $5,496 million on those income support benefits for boat owners, captains, crews, and one-off payments to vendors. The government decided, Mr. President, as well, that we would also help repairs to boats, and to date, we have put $1.96 million on vessel repairs, allowing at that time, because there would have to be more now, 50 boats to be relaunched. 50 boats to be relaunched. A total, Mr. President, of some $4.56 million spent to help the ordinary fisher folk. And yes, people were thanking the government for the support. I also, as well, want to advise that the government engage the World Bank to provide a resilience building project, Mr. President. And not only the World Bank, but as well, Mr. President, it worked with the United Nations in collaboration with the government of Japan as well to provide another USD $2.93 million in support. And that support, Mr. President, was specifically related to strengthening resilience of the fishery sector. It's going to be a one-year program. It will see investments in the upgrade of the Bridgetown Fisheries Complex. And I also want to note as well, Mr. President, for the record, that those upgrades have started, that the repair work for one in Oistins in the jetty, and perhaps the Honorable Senator Walters can perhaps convene his colleagues, including the representative for Christchurch South, to perhaps take a visit, because he doesn't normally go in that place. But perhaps if he would normally make himself available, if he would make himself available to the people of Christchurch South, he would then know what is happening, and that the fact that work has actually started on repairs in the Oistins jetty, as they have started as well in Bridgetown as well. Because that is exactly... perhaps I'm hearing if he would roll down his windows as he passes by, he would be able to see some of those repairs that are going on. Mr. President, the Honorable Senator Walters raised the issues. I am responding to the issues that was raised. So I don't worry, the boat will get hauled back in. You asked the questions, Mr. President, he did. And I am now indicating, and I will say that one-year program, as I said, will see investments already taking place in the Bridgetown Fisheries Complex. It will set aside the Barbados Fisheries Recovery Plan, equipping boats with modern technology, improving, Mr. President, I know I'm in the Blue Sea with Senator Walters, improving ice facilities as well. There you go. There you go as well. And also as well, providing support, as I said, for Bornufo. So, Mr. President, the suggestion, again, that the government is not doing what it should in order to build resilience within the fishery sector, Mr. President, is an unfortunate one. I also want to say, Mr. President, with respect to insurance.
What's your point of order, Senator Walters?
Mr. President, the Senator is misrepresenting what I said. I said the government has not used its resources to adequately support the fishing sector when compared to other sectors in the country. The Senator has assisted me in correcting the amount that the government has supported the fishing folk with. I was on the assumption that the government would have supported the fishing sector with an amount not exceeding 15% of what it gave to the hoteliers during COVID of $300 million. The Senator is now correcting me and saying that the government has only provided support of 2.5% of the $300 million that was supported that was given to the hoteliers during COVID for the tourism industry then. So I'm grateful for the clarification that the fishing sector got significantly less support than the big hoteliers during COVID. Thank you, Mr. President.
Please continue, Senator Monroe Knight.
Mr. President, I will move on because those queries will be answered at a later date. And I also want to point out that the support was not only given by government to the fishery sector as well, but that it was also support given by the Barbados Red Cross as well, the World Food Program as well. So more money given to boat agents directly to 130 fish vendors as well. We're also given each by the Red Cross $600 a month for 3 months. a total then of 234,000, and it was the government that mobilized this support, and also as well the other support from other international agencies as well to assist the fishery sector. But even in that discourse, Mr. President, there was a recognition that the fishery sector also as well needed to insure itself. And, Mr. President, I want to identify that the government is, in fact, assisting the fishery sector to be able to mobilize around support. I have been informed that just last week, there was a meeting with the president of the insurers here in Barbados to discuss an insurance framework for the fishery sector, and that next week as well, that there would be ongoing meetings in order to be able to facilitate. I am also as well informed that the government, recognizing that even outside of the fishery sector, that average Barbadians need to be able to be insured comprehensively against disasters, and that the level of concern about the cost of that insurance is such that the government itself is facilitating a meeting of the general insurance in Barbados in order then to look and see how we can create the facility. I also want to acknowledge, I hope that we can acknowledge, Mr. President, that government has to play a balancing act, again, as the state interfering in the insurance market. But even noting that, the government is still facilitating that dialogue. We are also saying as well, Mr. President, that because we know that insurance functions on the base of mass, that we have been calling for a regional framework, one, yes, for our fisher folk, but also a regional framework that will, again, allow our citizens to be able to access the insurance that they need. Even in a context, Mr. President, when globally you have international insurance firms that are retreating from high-risk areas. And that is not something that we can control, but certainly something that as much as we can as a government, to be able to enter one, to negotiate with those that are here on the behalf of the fisher folk, and then also on the behalf of ordinary Barbadians, that the government is seeking to do that. So that there is in no way that the government is retreating from its responsibility, retreating from the recognition of the importance of it, but also as well, we're also asking our citizens, also asking the fisher folk as well to be cognizant of their responsibility to be insured. And Mr. President, I don't think that that is an unreasonable ask. You're doing fishing, it's a business. You should want to be able to insure your assets against disasters, because it will become as much, Mr. President, as the government can do or will want to do, increasingly difficult to have the capital to be able to consistently pour into sectors when there is a disaster. So we have to be able to encourage our citizens. And so then rather a defensive approach, I think there needs to be a dialogue which encourages everybody to be insured. Even as I said before, as we try to deal with that issue of the high cost of insurance as well, that is affecting us all. I also want, Mr. President, to indicate that the hurricane plan for the fishery sector will be launched next week. There have been ongoing discussions with all of the stakeholders within the fishery sector. I am advised that the plan has to be modified, again, to take in some concerns, because there have been wide stakeholder discussions around that hurricane plan, and therefore that hurricane plan, again, will be launched and will be modified. So, Mr. President, I hope that my vote, unlike that of the Honourable Senator Walters, did not stay out in the deep blue, but that I was able to connect with the topic that we are on, the bill that is before us in relation to insurance, and again to provide the clarity on the investment and the assistance that government has been and continues to do for the fishery sector to ensure that it builds the necessary resilience in there, and as well in respect of insurance for the fishery sector and for the ordinary Barbadians. I'm obliged, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Dr. Chantal Monroe-Knight. Senator Cummins, please wind up.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to thank the honourable members who have spoken, and I want to take a moment to just provide some additional clarity on a few issues that were raised. As I always do, I attempt to respond to queries that were raised. Mr. President, I believe that the Honourable Dr. Chantal Monroe-Knight has gone through in great detail the issues relating to the fisheries sector, and I want to take a moment just to pull from the publicly available information on the website of the Enterprise Growth Fund Limited, which is the entity that took responsibility for administering the BEST program. The BEST program is the money that was allocated, $300 million during the course of COVID, to account for a sector that generates the revenue to pay Barbados' bills, and accounts for 40% of this country's workforce. And it is disingenuous and unfortunate to attempt to create any equivalence between 40% of the workforce of this country going a-begging completely over a period during COVID and a sector that is entirely differently structured. So I want to draw from the Enterprise Growth Fund, where in order to avoid the sensationalism and the misrepresentations that have continued to be perpetuated can be found on record in publicly available information. The BEST program was designed to respond to the tourism sector going underwater during COVID. The monies that were allocated combined both a grant component that was capped, and that grant was not for the purpose of going to profit for hoteliers, to support hoteliers in their private lives. It was tied specifically to them agreeing to retain a minimum of 75% of their workforce, to keep housekeepers, gardeners, cooks, maintenance persons, pool persons on staff, so that they would have 80% of their wages or salaries during the period of COVID. It was not a grant to go to hoteliers. It continues to be a misrepresentation of the facts. 1. 2, Mr. President, if during that period the hotel did not have guests to come and to be able to stay in your hotel, the requirement was for those workers, 75% of the total workforce of a given hotel at 80% of their salary or wages, they were required to be enrolled in a training program. That training program covered a range of institutions, including but not limited to the National Transformation Initiative. So workers had the opportunity and were required by the BEST program to be upskilled, to be retooled, and to be trained in preparation for the reopening of the sector that pays this country's bills, that allows this country, when it makes money, to do things like support the fishery sector. Now, in addition, there was an investment component, Mr. President. There was an investment component that then required that then required the hotel sector to take out what we call preference shares. The government took out preference shares, and it had a coupon, and the coupon was on a sliding scale. And the percentages are publicly available, up to 2%, no different than the 2.5% that was just bandied about in a different context. And that coupon then required the hoteliers to make payments, and then the government took out a share of the facility and investment. And in the event that tourism recovered to 2019 levels, which was the baseline threshold, there was an opportunity for either the hoteliers to buy out the shares that the government had taken, or the government and they had to fight the right of what we call first refusal. It was a structured program that was not a grant. It was not a giveaway. They were insured, all of them, 100%. They also were required to do 3 additional things, Mr. President. This House, earlier today, I laid a document in this honorable chamber called the Tourism Linkages Policy. If you look at Jamaica, Jamaica has a similar policy as well. Jamaica pioneered it, Tourism Linkages Policy, and it connects the tourism sector to agriculture, to manufacturing, and to the services sector. During COVID, there was a requirement for those companies that were involved in the tourism sector and involved and enrolled in the BEST program, Mr. President, to then make investments in a couple of things. We talked about stormwater earlier, sewage treatment and waste removal, green energy investments, upskilling and retraining by use of digitalization. Those were requirements as a part of the investment component of the program and the project, so that on the west coast of this country, Mr. President, on the south coast of this country, Mr. President, hotel infrastructure would have sewage and waste disposal systems inbuilt into their transformation projects, in their infrastructure, to protect our coastlines and to protect our people. These are the things that were embedded in the BEST program. It can be sensationalized, but facts must always be still seen as facts. Mr. President, now I understand that the honorable member may be a little bruised. He's worked hard recently and lost resoundingly, and so he may want to come and see how much mud he can throw and see how much of it may stick. I understand he may feel a low way that he doesn't have anybody to talk about taking chicken off of their plates when they're at lunch. I understand that, Mr. President. But when you come to the people of Barbados in this honorable chamber, honor it and speak truth, because the truth is publicly available. The final thing that I want to say here, Mr. President, is that I read the same news report that the honorable member made reference to. I wasn't there, but I read the same news report, and I'm fairly certain that I saw in that news report that the minister who spoke said they encourage people who can afford to get insurance to get insurance. And they want to say that those funds are available for those who are the most vulnerable among us. That is what the Honorable Minister is quoted in the newspaper as saying. He went on to say there are those of us who can afford to get insurance and choose not to get insurance. But for those who can afford to do it so that just like so many of us pay to support free education and then choose to go overseas, pay through our taxation system to get free health care and chose to go to the private doctor. We are supporting the sense of community where we are providing, by way of the deductions that we refer to, support for those who cannot afford to get insurance coverage, and therefore they need the support of the state. It is the responsibility of the state to take care of the most vulnerable and those who cannot afford to do the things that others can. It is not the responsibility, however, of me to say, I don't want to pay the money for insurance. I don't want to get into all of them. I prefer to keep the money in my pocket and go and buy a pair of shoes instead, or go and do something else, but I want the government to pay for my house insurance, to pay for my car insurance. You cannot have an asset worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and not be able to have a genuine conversation about insurance affordability. It is not a reasonable ask for me to ask that of the government, and that is what I read as the Honorable Minister who spoke in that press conference to be saying. And if it is that the representative who sits in this chamber as a member of the opposition is saying that we should not be looking after the most vulnerable, then it means that they're definitely not going to apologize anytime soon for withdrawing things like public access to university education in this country, because they do not believe in looking after the most vulnerable. They genuinely don't believe in it. They do not believe that the state has a responsibility to look after its people who cannot afford to look after themselves. If that is what they're saying in here, then do not look for any apology anytime soon from the Democratic Labour Party. Now, Mr. President, I started my presentation today in peace. I closed it in peace, and I did not pick a noise. I did not. You weren't even in the chamber when I was speaking on insurance. I spoke on insurance today very peacefully. I came and I made sure and I talked about the risk-based approach. But when you come now to pitch a boat out to sea, then regrettably, you force me to draw you back into shore. So I want to commend this bill on insurance to this honorable chamber, and I want to thank the members who have spoken, including those who have spoken in a different way that gave me the opportunity to correct for the record in a way that I may not have had an opportunity to do on a previous occasion. And with these few words, Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill be read a second time.
Thank you, Senator Cummings. The question is that this bill be read a second time. Will those honorable senators in favor please say aye? Aye. Those against please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move that Your Honor do not leave the chair and the Senate resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill.
The question is that I do not leave the chair, and the Honorable the Senate resolve itself in the committee for further consideration of this bill. Will those honorable senators in favor please say aye? Aye. Those against please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
The Honourable the Senate is now in committee.
Madam Deputy Chair, may I take the bill in two parts?
Indeed, you may.
Clauses 1 to 6.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that clauses 1 through 6 do not stand part.
Question is that clauses 1 through 6 do now stand part. Will all honourable senators in favour please say aye? Aye. And those against, would you please say no? The ayes have it.
Clauses 7 through 12.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that clauses 7 through 12 do not stand part.
The question is that clauses 7 through 12 do now stand part. Will all honourable senators in favour please say aye? Those against, would you please say no? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that you do not report to His Honour the President the passing of one bill in committee.
The question is that I do now report to His Honour the President the passing of one bill in committee. Will all honourable senators in favour please say aye? Aye. Those against, would you please say no? The ayes have it.
The chairman has reported the pass of bill in committee.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill now be read a third time.
The question is that this bill be read a third time. Will those honourable senators in favour please say aye? Aye. Those against please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill do now pass and be cited as the Insurance Amendment Act of 2025.
The question is that this bill do not pass and be cited as the Insurance Amendment Act 2025. Will those honourable senators in favour please say aye? Aye. Those against please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This bill is now passed and so cited.
Mr. President, this brings us to the end of government business for the day. I want to thank all honourable members for their continued commitment to the work of the Senate, and I beg to move that the Senate now is adjourned sine die.
The question is that the Honourable Senate be now adjourned sine die. Will those honourable senators in favour please say aye? Aye. Those against please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. Senate stands adjourned sine die.